The world knew Elara Vance as a force of nature, a titan of industry whose very name was synonymous with ruthless efficiency and staggering innovation. Her empire, Vance Technologies, was housed in a shimmering skyscraper that pierced the clouds, a cold glass monument to her own relentless ambition. And within her penthouse office, surrounded by panoramic views of the city she commanded, Alara felt a profound and unshakable loneliness that no stock surge or acquisition could ever fill. Her life was a meticulously curated schedule of power lunches and international conferences, a gilded cage where every interaction was a transaction and trust was a liability she couldn't afford. A reality that weighed heavily on her during the late, silent hours when the headquarters emptied, leaving her alone with the ghost of her own success. It was during one such night, as a violent storm lashed against the floor-to-ceiling windows, that her perfectly ordered world first cracked. Stressed beyond measure by a multi-billion-dollar merger teetering on the edge of collapse, she stumbled from her office, her mind racing, and collided with the steady, unexpected presence in the hallway. Kaelen, the night janitor, sending his mop bucket clattering softly against the polished marble. He was not what one would expect. Young, with the quiet strength in his shoulders and eyes that held a disarming depth. And as he steadied her with the calm, "My apologies, Miss Vance, are you all right?" Alara felt a jolt, not of annoyance, but of something else entirely, a connection so foreign it left her flustered. She brushed past him with a sharp remark, but the seed was planted. And in the weeks that followed, she found herself unconsciously noting his movements, the careful way he restored order to the chaos of her desk, the faint, clean scent of sandalwood that lingered in the air after he had passed through, a silent, calming influence in her turbulent life. The night the merger was finally saved, she celebrated alone in her office with the bottle of expensive wine, the alcohol and the crushing weight of her isolation blurring her judgment until, when Kaelen entered to empty her trash, she looked at him and truly saw him. Not an employee, but a kind, strikingly handsome man. And what followed was a blur of whispered conversation, vulnerability, and reckless, passionate connection. A mistake she labeled it with cold certainty the very next morning, building her walls even higher to shut him out completely. Weeks turned into a nauseating, exhausting mystery that a doctor soon solved with one word: pregnant. A diagnosis that sent her world into a tailspin of panic, imagining the tabloid headlines, the board's disapproval, the utter annihilation of her carefully constructed image, all centered on the unthinkable fact that the father was the janitor. Summoning him to her office, she delivered the news not as a shared reality, but as a corporate problem to be managed. Her voice icy as she stated, "I'm pregnant. The child is yours, but this cannot happen. I will handle this privately. A significant severance package and a transfer can be arranged." Bracing for a plea or an argument, but instead, Kaelen simply looked at her with the heartbreaking sadness and said, "A child is a gift, not a problem to be handled. I'll respect your decision, but I won't run away. I resign." And with those quiet words, he was gone, leaving a silence more deafening than any storm. Determined to erase the episode, Alara arranged a private closed adoption, told her inner circle she was suffering from extreme burnout and taking a sabbatical, and retreated to a secluded estate to wait out the pregnancy, convincing herself daily that this was the only logical, clean choice, building a fortress of denial around her heart. The day of the birth was a clinical, emotionless procedure until the moment the nurse swaddled her son to take him away. As the baby turned his head, a shaft of sunlight illuminated his face, and Alara's breath caught in her throat. For there, staring back at her, were Kalen's eyes, the exact same shade of hazel green flecked with gold, the same strong jawline, an undeniable, perfect replica that shattered her defenses completely. A love so fierce and immediate overwhelmed her, and she cried out, "Wait, please let me hold him." And as she cradled her son, Leo, for the first time, feeling the weight of him, she was consumed by a shame so profound it became a catalyst for change, vowing to find Kaelen and make things right, no matter the cost. Returning to Vance Technologies, a changed woman, her cold ambition replaced by a mother's fierce determination, she hired an investigator not to bury a secret, but to uncover a man. And the report she received was staggering. Kaelen was not a struggling laborer, but the heir to an immense fortune from a family of renowned architects, a man who had chosen a life of humble service to stay grounded, a billionaire in his own right who valued purpose over prestige. She found him not in an office, but on a dusty construction site for a community center he was funding. His hands dirty, his presence commanding in a way she had been blind to before. And with her son in her arms, she approached him, her voice thick with emotion, and said, "Kaelen, I was wrong. I judged you by your job, not your character. I saw his face, and I saw my foolishness." Kaelen looked from her tear-filled eyes to his son's face, and he softly replied, "His middle name is Alexander. It means defender of men." And in that moment, their new story began, not as a fairy tale, but as a slow, honest rebuilding of trust, co-parenting Leo and discovering in each other the missing pieces they both had been searching for. Elara learning to soften her heart, and Kaelen stepping into a role where he could use his resources for good on a grand scale. Their partnership becoming the most enigmatic and powerful love story the city had seen. Proof that the most extraordinary connections are often hidden in plain sight, waiting for the courage to truly see.